Hello and welcome back. I am Erin L. Ferguson and this is my video series about creating the art for a 2D video game. And if you are not new to this channel, then you will notice that I have stopped numbering my videos, mostly because I'm tired of checking to see what number I'm on, but also because it doesn't really matter when you jump into this series. This episode is as good as any. They don't have to be watched in order. So if you are new to this channel and are just finding us now, well, thank you for joining us today. And for those of you who tuned in last week, I just want to let you know that I did finish all of that furniture that I started working on with you. For those of you who didn't watch, last week was one of my Draw With Me episodes, which tend to run quite a bit longer than my regular episodes, but they're really good for people who just want to have something sort of relaxing on in the background to listen to while they go about doing, about their day or going and doing, if they want to draw or do some other work. I tend to like YouTube videos like that run a little longer and are just kind of chatty, and I like to have them on in the background while I'm folding laundry or whatever. So last week I started drawing furniture for a workshop, and I finished basically drawing it in that video. I did go back and add a couple of more things afterward as I had new ideas, but I did also get it all colored and shaded, and I got it put up into a mock-up. And if you're following me on Instagram, and you really should be because I'm really entertaining, so if you're following me on Instagram, then you can go there and see the mock-up for the workshop, so you can see what everything actually looks like in place. But on today's video, we are not drawing furniture for a humble carpenter, but a much less humble musician. So this stuff is for our dear Amadeus. Amadeus is a musician who lives in in the rival kingdom, along with pretty much all of the other characters that I've been working on lately. And he lives in one of the townhomes. Last week I showed you, if I remember right, I think I did. I pulled up the townhome that Amadeus lives in, and his next door neighbor is Bruce, the carpenter, who of course I worked on last week. So I needed some furniture for his house, and oh my goodness, it was a struggle. Let me tell you all about my struggle. So my main problem was finding ways to visually represent like the character of Amadeus, but still making those things, the things that he surrounds himself with, like period appropriate. Now, like granted, we're not exactly going for historical accuracy in this game, not even close, but I do want, well, I mean, your home kingdom is fairly medieval sort of themed. Your rival kingdom is more like Baroque themed. Like, so they're slightly more advanced and everything is just really gaudy and decorated, and it just has this this feel of wealth and riches. And the thing about Amadeus, though, is he isn't especially wealthy at all. He's one of these who he believes he's one of these special sort of artists who believes that the artist must truly suffer for the work and that he is a genius and nobody understands him. And as a result, he's not exactly the most successful musician ever. I think he does get the odd gig here and there. Like, I mean, he's going to play, I think he'll probably play at the tavern at night. Like, I'm working on, that's next on my to-do list, is I've got to make furniture for a tavern that's going to be here in town. And I think he'll probably play the piano or something there in the evenings and at night. And I think maybe he even plays, I have a feeling that, like, Charity would have him come and play for her social gatherings, you know, in the big manor house. He'd probably go and play their pianoforte or the violin or something. So I think he does get the odd gig here and there, but I think, like, paying the bills is probably a bit of a struggle. But at the same time, I think he's got, like, nice taste. I don't think he would want anybody to see him living in squalor. Like, I think that he probably has fairly lofty taste. And so I thought, you know what he really is? He's basically like today's, like, the Baroque equivalent of, like, an IKEA shopper. Like, IKEA furniture on the surface, it looks pretty nice. You know, when you get it all assembled and you put it together, I mean, it looks pretty, it's fairly minimalist, looks very put together. Like, it looks pretty nice, but we all know it's, like, just garbage. I mean, it just is. We own a couple of pieces of IKEA furniture ourselves, and it's not great. So my first pass at this, which you saw briefly, I made like everything looked very minimalist. I imagine he just comes off to me as the kind of guy who likes a lot of like black and gray, so I was going with that kind of color scheme. And I made like his couch and his chair and everything just very sleek, very minimalist, very little decoration on it. But when I put it like actually into the mock-up, it just looked way too modern. Like I ran it by my brother, and it was just like a little too modern, which I knew. So it's like, okay, so I had to go back, and at least some of the pieces worked just fine. Like, I mean, the piano was fine. Pianos have been around for a long time. This one probably isn't especially historically accurate, but I think it looks fine. But, a lot of the other things like the couch, the chair, some of the elements in the kitchen, things like that, other chairs, stools, just the black leather, it just did not look period appropriate. And so I started pulling up, pictures of like Baroque sort of furnishings that maybe had more of a sleek, a little less decoration actually, than maybe what I'd been doing for like the manor house. They were just less gaudy, but still looked, antique, I guess. And so I went back and I redrew, several things, and which is what you're seeing me do right now, and recolored some things just to be a little less black and silver. I mean, I still tried to keep the sort of dark color scheme, but I changed some of the things that were metal into wood and just tried to make everything look just a little more aged. But then I went back and stuck it back into the mock-up, and it was worse. I was looking at it and I was just like shaking my head. Like, it just looked like this like LA apartment, it looked very, very modern. And so I had to kind of like sleep on it for a bit. And you'll see after I get done changing all of this furniture, like what the product looks like. And it just, just wasn't quite right. And it wasn't really until the next day that I realized that part of my focus had been in the wrong place. Like, yes, I needed to change the furniture, but the other thing that was really making this, his apartment, his space, look too modern was in some of the finishings on the walls and on the floors. So, for instance, I had like a really nice, like rich, warm wood floor originally in there. But when I swapped it out for like an older wood floor, something that just looked really, more dated and darker, that helped a ton just to sort of push the whole scene back, a few centuries in time. And the other thing that made, I think, the biggest difference is I originally had black paint on the walls, just like solid black paint, which is a fairly modern choice. I don't think there were too many, I don't think too many people just painted their walls like solid black back in the day. I don't know how many people do it now, but it just had a very masculine, very, I keep saying the word modern, but it just had that feel. But what I decided to do instead was I went and took the wallpaper, the gold wallpaper that I used for the manor house, and I changed the color, so I didn't have to redraw it all. That was nice. I just changed the color, so it was like more of a black gray color scheme, and slapped that on the wall. So I have this dated wallpaper with a very dated old floor, and it was like cha-ching, like it finally came together and worked. But this was over the course of several days that I, struggled with this until it finally started coming together. And I think it was worth the struggle, but oh my goodness, I'm hoping the rest of them come together a lot faster, because that was hard. But you know what they say, challenge breeds creativity, so it was probably good for me. But I'm also hoping, just through all of the changes and everything, that I did a good job of just conveying exactly who this character is. For one thing, I wanted to show that he is fairly ambitious. Like, I wanted to show that, yes, he is a musician, but he also, I think, has dreams of being like a composer. So on his walls, I stuck he's got portraits of like all of his hero composers, and those portraits are totally ones I copied from real world composers. 10 points to Gryffindor if you can tell who they are. But I thought he's got his signed portraits from his heroes on the wall. And if you look on his desk, he's just got tons of piles of papers. It's like the most messy place in his house. And just wadded up paper on the floor. I wanted it to look like, he's been working late into the night writing music. And if you look like at the corner of his desk, he has like 3 teacups there because he just, he drinks tea to keep himself up all night and just does not clean up after himself. So he has like 3 empty cups and also a dead cactus. Like, I thought it would be really funny if he's got, this cool, like, desktop terrarium where he's got this cactus, but he's just so busy, so consumed, all consumed with his work that he can't remember to take care of it. So it's, like, kind of shriveled up and dead. So hopefully, I mean, for the keen observer who takes a close look, hopefully you'll have kind of an idea of who this character is, as well as who he is and who he wants to be. And so now here at long last are the mock-ups for his living space. We have his living room, and of course upstairs is his bedroom, and I think it finally came together pretty nicely. So, let me know what you think, and hopefully if you've enjoyed this episode, you'll be back next week. I think I'll probably be doing more character homes and spaces for a little while. I'm getting pretty close to being done with everything in this rival kingdom. I'm definitely over halfway there. So thank you for joining me again, and I hope you have a wonderful week. I will see you again next Friday.